Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video, I'm bringing you a new to me designer that I have admired for quite some time. This is some products from Alex Syberia Designs. So for all of my people across the pond, this is a UK based company. They are sold, if you are a US person and you are like, I love them and I don't want to pay astronomical shipping, they are sold at places like Simon Says Stamp and stuff. But their florals, stop it. You stop. They're amazing. And so they started as a doing digital stamps, and then they did this like huge Kickstarter to start to make physical products. And so they've been doing that for 6 or 8 months now. And so, I really super loved their digital stuff. And then when they switched over to actual photopolymer stamps, I was like, yes, I'm here for it. So this stamp set has coordinating dies and a stencil, if you didn't notice the title of the video. And this is called Life is Good. In addition to that, I am using the classic foliage die set and the modern stripes cover plate. So these are the stencils. It gives you kind of a layout on the back of how they're going to go. And there's 2 steps on each stencil. So the first step here is the leaves. Now, I wasn't sure, naming videos is hard work. Here I'm just going in and masking off some areas to make sure that I don't get ink anywhere that I don't want it. And that's, what am I using here? The pink one. What is it? Pixie tape? I think it's pixie tape. I have a couple of different options lying around my desk. And so the point of the video is to do shading with layering stencils, but it's shading in addition to the layers. So we have like a base layer, then we're going to shade this right here with 3 different colors before we even get to the next stencil. Why are we doing that? Well, to create dimension, of course. Whose channel are you on? And so this is something that's super nice that you can do to kind of like bump up the way that your stenciled images look and to make them look more your own and not just like just like everybody else's. Because you guys know I'm a big fan of that. And so here what I'm doing is I'm putting down a base color and then I'm doing a mid-tone, and you can see I'm not completely covering it. I'm keeping it more along where those where those leaves are tucked in, and then out to the darkest color, and that will even be less. I will add even less, but mostly where it's tucked under, because that's where our shadows would naturally be. And so you can see here we have this shading already without even putting on another layer. Now the other layer will certainly help us to achieve more dimension, which I'm here for. But the reason that I wanted to do this video, here I'm just trying to press it down into my stamp wheel without getting my fingers inky. And so the reason that I wanted to do this is because, first of all, we don't always have time. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't have a lot of time, but you really want to get in your craft room. You want to make something that you're happy with, and you don't maybe have time to spend, 2 hours making a card. And, a lot of times I do, but sometimes I don't. And so here, I'm using 2 colors for these leaves. I'm using peacock feathers and uncharted mariner. And then there's more of these little green leaves that I'm doing them the same way, which I think I showed you, but if I didn't, twisted citron, mowed lawn, and rustic wilderness. Seriously, my super favorite green combination right now. I love a lime green. But so we may not always have the time that we would like to spend hand coloring an image. But some of us, because we're all on different art journeys, some of us might not yet have the skill set to do that. Here, what I'm doing is I'm wiping off the teal and the green because I need to use this same stencil to put down the color for what is going to be a pink flower. And so I need to clean off the stencil to make sure that I'm not picking up any of that teal or that green into my flower. And I'm just doing that with a baby wipe. You can do it with a microfiber cloth. You can take it to the sink and rinse it off and then dry it, whatever works for you. I'm also going to go back in with more of that pixie tape and just block off anywhere that is going to get ink where I don't want it. And I would recommend doing that. It's kind of like an extra step that you have to take, but it's an extra step that's totally worth it, just to make sure that there's no boo-boos. And so the pink flowers are going to be Kitsch Flamingo, Picked Raspberry, and Seedless Preserves. I do wish they were a little bit brighter. I think maybe I got a little heavy-handed with the Seedless Preserves, and I should have gone back in with the Picked Raspberry, but I didn't. And so here for the Seedless Preserves, I am going in, this one is from Honeybee, this little tiny one. But the detailing brushes, I think, are way, way, way more popular and also kind of more of a necessity than they used to be, just because of all of these layering stencils that are on the market, which are great because they give us the opportunity to do things like this. So anyway, we're all on different art journeys, and some of us just aren't at a skill set yet where we're going to be happy with the results. And so I do want to encourage you to keep trying, with your markers and with your pencils. But if there's a day that you feel discouraged and you just want to make something pretty, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using a layering stencil to get something that you're going to be happy with. So there's just a little teeny tiny grouping there that had some extra leaves in it that I chose to do teal. And then for my next two flowers, as well as the center of my pink flower, I am doing, it's more of an orange. I'm using yellow as my base just so that it'll be a little bit brighter, and that was mustard seed. And then my mid-tone is carved pumpkin, and the shading, my darkest shadow color will be crackling campfire. And so those are just, again, we haven't added any of the detail stenciling yet. We've only added just the base layer stenciling, and we already have a ton of dimension. I used to do this before stencils were even a thing. Like, I used to do this with my stamps. I would cut them apart, and I would, because I wasn't good with Copic markers, but I wanted a ton of dimension. And so here, like I said, even before we get to the next layer, we already have a ton of dimension going on. And of course you can, use any colors that you like. One thing I did want to know, I forgot to tell you, this tape I'm putting along at the top is actually the Scotch masking tape, which is great because it's not too sticky, but it's not absorbent either. So it's not going to soak through and get on my card. And then for the detail layers, I'm going to skip the lightest color, and I'm going to start with my mid-tone. So for these details, I'm going in with Mowed Lawn first, skipping the Twisted Citron, and then I will add the additional shading with the Rustic Wilderness. And again, this is just going to help it kind of blend better, give us a little bit more of a natural look. I have some other ideas for layering stencils to just use them a bit differently. So please let me know in the comments below if you're super into layering stencils and you would like to see kind of the other techniques that maybe I have in mind. And I do hope to come back to this image at some point and actually color it. But I just really, I thought that this would be a good video to do in case you were at a point in your crafting where you're a bit discouraged. Because it's important that we don't lose the joy of it. A lot of times in Facebook groups and stuff, there's a bunch of them that I'm part of. You'll see people who are getting discouraged because they're trying to sell their things and their things aren't selling, or they're getting discouraged because they feel like they're not using what they have. They're getting discouraged because, a card didn't come out the way that they had it in their mind. And they kind of lose the joy of the craft. And I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want that to happen to me either. And so that's why I constantly have to be coming up with different things that I know that I'm going to be, it's a surefire technique. And I have a handful of them that I know I'm going to walk away and I'm going to be happy with the results. Because sometimes we just need that. We just need that little bit of encouragement and achievement. And everybody crafts for different reasons. And for me, I enjoy the end result for sure. I'm happy when I have a card that I'm like, yes, this came out better than I anticipated. But for me, it's also the process. There is, something for me that kind of feeds my soul in going through the process of the making. And you can see that in every single one of my hobbies. That's not just card making. It's in cross stitching. It was in refinishing furniture, in hand lettering and drawing. There is something for me that is intrinsically tied to the making, like the process of that. And I need that in my life. So anywho, here now we're on to the last one. And if you notice, see, look at the top there where it's got all these sentiments. How fun is that? So even if you just wanted to use the stencils by themselves without the stamp, even if you just bought the stencils, which are obviously substantially cheaper than a stamp set, they give you sentiments in there. And so you would just need that to make a card. You would just need the stencil pack, which I think is brilliant and super helpful. So anyway, here, these are just like the final layers. For the most part, I am really just adding in the darkest color. The only exception to that is the little pink flowers and the little orange flower. And the reason that I had to put down the mid-tone is because there was nothing on there. So I had to put the pink as a base before I added the purple over top. And the same thing for the orange one. There was a section that didn't have anything on it, and so I had to put the orange down so that I had a base. So now that that is all done, you know I love the drama. Bring the drama in the cards, not in my life. Drama in life is kind of exhausting. And so for these, I'm just going around with a black Copic marker because I know that I'm going to put this on a black background. This background technique, which brings a lot of texture and brings a lot of interest, can be done with any kind of darker colored cardstock. You don't need to do black. I like to do black because I feel like it's a neutral and it really lets these bright colors pop. But in order to do that, I like to color my white outline. And so I just went around and did it before I die cut it out. This is the coordinating die cut. So I'm just going to run that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 to cut it out. And then I'm going to move on to the modern stripes. I keep wanting to call this a chevron. It looks like a chevron, but the title of it is a modern stripe. So here you can see I have some black glitter cardstock, some regular black cardstock, and some white. I wasn't sure, because I do love a black and white stripe with a floral as well. So I wasn't sure how I wanted to do it. So first things first, I'm going to cut it out of this glitter cardstock, which like the glitter cardstocks that I use are all neutrals. This cut through great. I had no issues at all, just popping these little stripies right out. If you were a person who had more time than I did this time, you could use these stripies, like leave them in, pick them up with the press and seal, and then use them for another background, which would be great. But I did not have time today, so I'm just going to, use them in another card in the future. So here I decided I was going to cut it out of white as well, just to check. This, I put them on backwards, and wasn't that a cool looking design? Maybe that's something else. But what I really wanted was kind of like a highlight or a shadow. And so I have that. I'm putting it on the black cardstock. I think it looks super cool. And I will probably use that technique for another card because I do really love it with the bold florals. But I felt like it was a little bit distracting in this card. And so I decided to go with the black glitter on black cardstock. This is the classic foliage dies. I'm going to use this to kind of bulk up my floral arrangements. So I cut, I think 6 of them. I used 2 of the smaller ones out of vellum. This is such a fun way to just add a little bit more weight. Like if you need to change up your layout. I really liked this, but its intention, I believe, is to be a horizontal card, but I didn't want to make it a landscape. I wanted to make it a portrait. And so by turning it upside, like up on its end, how would you say that? Anywho, by turning it up on its end, it did seem like my sides were lacking a bit, and that's where those little vellum leaves are going to come in. For the sentiment, I stamped it. I didn't show you. It's Hero Arts Unicorn Pigment ink. The reason I didn't show it to you is because as I was showing it to the camera, I totally knocked it. I knocked the camera, and so it was like bouncing all over the place. So rather than make you seasick, I figured I would just tell you what I used. And then I heat set that with white embossing powder, and now I'm using the coordinating die to cut that out as well. And then we're going to move on to the building. I am going to pop up my floral arrangement, and I'm just using Scotch foam tape for that. Still trying to find a kind of everyday go-to foam tape that I'm in love with. But this is what I have, and I'll use it until I don't have it anymore because I'm cheap and I paid for it. So there's that. So I'm just going to adhere my chevrons down to my black card base. I mean, it's just really, you could do this with any, like, so if you have a blue glitter paper, or you could do mirror paper, any sort of kind of like specialty cardstock, you could do the same thing with, but by doing it tone on tone, it still provides interest and it still provides texture, but it doesn't make it too busy. So it isn't going to distract away from the focal point of the card, which is the florals. So just keep that in mind. And I do have a whole, if you're like Kelly, I don't have navy blue glitter paper. I got a whole video on how to make your own colored glitter paper. So if you're interested in that. So here, now I'm laying these out, these little vellum leaves where I want them to go. But if you put adhesive behind vellum, you can see it because it's meant to be see-through. And so the way I'm going to get around that is I'm going to put my little leaves down. I actually ended up using 5 of them instead of all 6. And once I have them there, I'm going to very carefully lift my floral up out of the center. This here, I'm just checking to make sure I've got the right amount of foam tape on my sentiment. But I'm going to carefully lift it up out of the center. You can see I'm kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to do here. And then I'm going to peel off the backing sheet off my foam tape. And then I'm going to very gently set it back down on the card. And my vellum will then stick to that exposed adhesive on the foam tape. And now I don't have to worry about putting any more adhesive, like getting it glued down, because it's already glued to the foam tape. Then I can just add some liquid glue on the back of it to just give me a little bit of wiggle room while I'm getting it where I want it to be. And then those leaves stay exactly where I wanted them to be. And this now, I have a little bit of extra weight in the right and the left, and it gives me a much more balanced design for this to be a vertical card. For my shimmer and shine, you guys know how I roll. So I got this glitter background, but I'm also going to put some shimmer on the flowers. This one is, I like the clear Wink of Stella, but I also use this one. I kind of use them interchangeably. This is the Nuvo Clear Gloss from Tonic. And so I'm just putting that all over the florals. And then I'm going to do some white highlights in the center of the flowers. And I didn't really do any other white highlights, though I think that this kind of background would look amazing with a bunch of white highlights. I kept it pretty simple to let the flowers kind of shine and not distract away from them. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is put the sentiment on. Oh, I lied. And then I'm going to add more shimmery stuff because I'm going to put rhinestones on it. I'm going to put rhinestones on it. So yes, anyway, this, I just wanted to give you something that I felt like would be helpful if you're kind of having an off crafty day. That's all. And then if you are not familiar with Alex Syberia Designs, I would encourage you to go check them out. Like I said, they are a much smaller company. They literally had to do a Kickstarter to be able to create, to have enough money to create physical product. But their designs really are fantastic. So that is it. That is the whole card. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.